great sound right now.
Okay. Just let this little pregame bit play for a minute.
Are you using just all modular here for your production, or
Me?
yeah, or software? Your everything.
Oh no, I'm mostly in the box guy.
Sweet,
Yeah.
sweet. Cool. I didn't know, software. Ugh.
Yeah. Man, well, you went to the show. Imagine making all that music with just
Well, what's funny
modular
is
stuff.
that
Would be crazy.
right at Thanksgiving, for your teaching credentials, the soundtrack will sell the entire thing for $100. I was like, well, anyways, I just found out about these plugins, and this company,
Acoustic, I never heard of them.
and they have a whole new series that's got a little AI thing built in them, but
Yeah.
they replications of like saturation machines and mixing and gnarly shit. Okay, I'm gonna pee one more time.
All right.
That coffee.
All right.
Hey, I'm about to do a live interview on YouTube, and you can, if you're streaming it right now, you can see me talking to you. I posted a link on my wall. I'm definitely going to be talking about you. Yeah, it's going to be now. It's going to be live, and if I know you're tuning in, I'll make sure to tell really embarrassing stories about you. Okay, all right. All right, I'll talk to you afterwards, okay? All right, bye. Love you, bye. We got people viewing? Do they see me?
There's a couple people on there now.
Yeah?
I switched over to you as soon as you
Okay.
said you were going to be talking on talking about your friend on the air.
Oh, amazing.
All right.
Oh, yeah.
Here comes our third party. Thank you for joining us on Mod City Live. We now have a name. It's Mod City Live.
Mod City Live, what's up?
Mod City.
We might explain the name at some point in the near future, but maybe not. Today we have with us in the studio Ben Cantil and Conte. Whoops. There we go. Now we can see all of us.
What's up, everybody? Good to see you. Good to be here in LA. And damn good to see you again, Computo, man.
Yeah.
This is great.
It's amazing. We got to see you and Zebbler perform the other night at Jules Catch One, which is a legendary club in LA. And you were playing with Mr. Bill, and who else was playing? Killsmith.
Yeah. Yeah, it was Bill and Killsmith doing back-to-backs as Kill Bill. If anyone hasn't seen their back-to-back set, it is totally worth checking out at some point. And we got some more shows coming up. I'm doing a show with Bill at Meow Wolf later this week,
Oh man.
and then Kill Smith again in Seattle. So we're bringing some sound to the public together.
That sounds like a killer gig. Yeah, Wolf is cool as
Oh
hell.
man, it is a dream come true. I mean, I'm a big burner. I love interactive art. I love when more attention is put into the experience and put into the actual production of the show. And holy moly, I mean, Meow Wolf is such a phenomenon, and I've been waiting for years to come play there. So
Yeah.
I'm excited.
I can't really think of a more appropriate location for Zebbler and Conte Experience.
Thank you. I thought we were perfect pairing too.
Yeah, seems appropriate. So tell us about what brings you across the country. You guys are doing a tour right now. What's the start and end point of the tour? Are you guys doing a van tour like you often have done, or a driving tour? We've those of us who have been following you know that there's been a
mixed bag. Yeah,
Oh,
this
really?
tour. Yeah, we started on the East Coast, and as you said, driving tour. We loaded up the Ziggurat, our projection map stage into a trailer, and we did Atlanta and 2 shows in Florida and 2 shows in Tennessee, kind of going up and down the East Coast a little bit. And I just flew over, and now I'm finishing out the remaining dates as kind of doing like solo shows. So even though Zebbler flew out for this one, it was great to have him and his girlfriend Leah there at our show in LA. That was a fantastic show. But these other ones, I'm going to be doing audiovisual, just rolling solo.
Wow. So how do you do a show like that when your show with Zebbler, who maybe we should start this whole thing off by saying, even though it's too late for that, people can go to your website, Zebbler Encanti Experience, ZebblerEncanti
Wow, nice. You win.
Experience.com. We'll put a link in the description.
Yeah,
For
Zebbler
that.
and Canty Experience, in short, is a collaboration between a visual artist, Zebbler, and I. And from our inception, we are all about creating experiential artwork in music. We are all about projection. Zebbler is a visual artist, and ever since I even first saw him, he works with like super widescreen format by taking 3 projectors and weaving them together. And the first time we played, I was also really into surround, so we were like doing these like immersive kind of
Wow.
raves and art galleries. But it wasn't until later on that we started making, I guess you could say, more accessible dance music, stuff that you could play like at peak hour dance floors. And yeah, we our project has taken on a life of its own. A lot of people just know us from Spotify, so they don't even know there's a visual aspect connected to it.
Oh.
It's really funny online. Like people are like, Zebbler is the best producer ever. So I feel like I'm a little bit of Zebbler's ghost producer, which I totally don't mind.
Yeah.
Because every now and then I get the credit for doing the
The
visuals.
visuals, yeah, of course. Good deal. So, I mean, what a thing to miss out on, though, considering how absolutely inextricably tied together your visuals and your music are or seem to be.
Yeah, I always think it's like just a really happy surprise when people do see us live and they see how involved the audiovisual aspect of the show is. Like we played at Wakan Festival earlier this year. Got to say that was my favorite festival that I've done in a while, and we had a really nice crowd. They had a great LED wall, but up till then, I don't think any of the visuals were like locked to the music,
Mm-hmm.
and it was along in the fest, so people had seen it all and they'd been partying for a couple days. And I think that when Z came on and the 60 frames a second totally locked visuals left just that extra oomph of an impact that seemed to really resonate, because since then we've had a lot of people come at us and say we saw you at Wakan and we're huge fans now, and been meeting some great people around the country for
And
sure.
you guys, I saw a video that I think you or Zebbler posted from that show of was it the opening song that you got the custom, you did like the custom intro
great,
audio?
great story, especially because I know Catherine's watching. My girlfriend, her dad, well, us 3 were hanging out around her house right before Wakan Festival, and it suddenly dawned on me that this man sounds exactly like David Attenborough. I mean, to my American ears, at least. There's Brits that might argue me on that, but I thought he had that David Attenborough voice, and I suddenly got this idea, and yeah, we're going to this Wakan festival. It's full of wooks, and it'd be
What is a wook?
yeah, exactly, right? Yeah. So, uh, this has been a really funny kind of ongoing joke in living over in the UK, is that a wook is very much an American term. So you kind of describe a wook is like the new word for a hippie, but one that listens to bass music and the Grateful Dead, and they have dreadlocks but really fancy sneakers. That's kind of the gist of it. Anyway, I approached him and I got this idea, like David Attenborough, like describing the behaviors of wooks in that very David Attenborough voice, And I approached him. I said, Alistair, how would you like to make fun of hippies? And we kind of got into the concept, and we all sat around in like a writing room, and we just put on David Attenborough, and we start writing the script. Deep in the wild, there is a lost world. We get into it, and all of us are throwing in lines, and we just make a minute that is pure planet Earth. And this was hours before playing the festival. All I did was I took it, and I took the Hans Zimmer, Planet Earth soundtrack, and I pasted one over the other, and it Goosebumps just sounded exactly like the intro to Planet Earth. And then I just, found some footage and I threw it over. And halfway through our show, we didn't open with it, but
Okay.
halfway through our show, like it was actually a really intense part of the show. And we just faded to black and all of a sudden fade up into Planet Earth, like, and the whole crowd, like they got big bass. You could feel the cinematic, feeling and beautiful HD Planet Earth, and then this voice, deep in the wild, there's a lost world where far beyond the prying eyes of modern civilization, the Wakan Wook. It went into the behavior of Wooks. It was so funny. And I think of all the stuff that we played at the Wakan Festival, that's the one where the most people came up and they commented on it. And
I bet.
there was, enough folk there. The rumor was going around that we had actually hired David Attenborough to do it because the vocal performance was so spot on and amazing.
I'm
I
sure.
feel like we have to do it more. I really
Yeah.
I want more episodes of Wook watching now.
Yeah, I think it. I mean, how many acts take the time and the care to put a personal, in the moment touch on a set like that? I think it's very few. Short of bands that are singing to the crowd and shouting out the town they're in or something like that. But to do it in the moment, I think is just kind of like a lot of added value there for the festival goers.
Yeah, you're right. It's the personal touch of folks feeling like, it was kind of a troll, but it wasn't a troll for everyone. It was a troll for just this festival in this moment. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. do Wooks know that they're Wooks?
Oh, this is an interesting question because some Wooks are offended by being called Wooks, but at the same time, I think that there's an embrace of Wookdom. Just in the same way that I think that when you kind of revel in a culture, you just have to look back and kind of see how fun and ridiculous it is from an objective viewpoint. So I think that it's both.
Yeah.
Wooks kind of know they're Wooks, but at the same time they might not want to admit that they're Wooks, but then they step back and they're like, yeah, we're kind of Wooks.
That seems about right.
It depends on how you say Wook. If you say it
Yeah.
as an insult,
Yeah, if it's a
then that's
pejorative,
mean.
then, yeah.
But if you're like, oh, we're just a bunch of Wooks wooking out, it's not a big deal. I'm a Wook every now and then. Every now and then I look back and I'm like, wow, I'm really a Wookish today.
We can all be Wooks in our own way, in our own time. That's really amazing. So you guys, when did you come together as a group?
Oh yeah, excellent question. Actually, around when I met you, Joe.
Yeah, we met in what, 2007 at NAMM or something? It seems.
No, we were at Berklee together.
No.
Yeah,
When were you at Berklee?
2003 to 2007.
I finished in 2003. Did we meet before that?
I feel like we did, because you were friends with Rob Baker.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I was hanging out with Rob a lot. I mean, I feel like he
That's
was
definitely how we met.
Yeah.
Rob Baker, big
Gotti
shout out.
Sassoon.
Yeah, with Gotti.
Shout out to Memory 9.
Memory 9, Redivider.
Yeah. Aliens at Home.
Yeah, Aliens at Home. Oh, man.
What a good project.
Yeah, I still have an Aliens at Home sticker on my bike.
Yeah.
I mean, like.
Is it the one with the mask and the cat on the lap? Is that?
No, it's some. Yeah, maybe actually that is it.
That one's crazy cool.
Yeah, they had some
Yeah.
great art going
I
along.
love
with that
those
project.
guys. I gotta say, I actually really enjoyed my time at Berklee. But
Likewise.
I think that I learned probably the most invaluable lessons from the other students there.
Yeah.
And particularly, I feel like our class was just absolutely on fire. I mean, I would sit and watch Rob Baker produce music in Logic for like all day,
Mm-hmm.
and just watching how musical decisions are made and
Yeah.
how you're gonna cut stuff up and use it later and process it, and that was absolutely, it put me where, set me where I am now, because
Yeah.
in class we'd learn the theory, we'd learn this is a synthesizer and this is how to make a good trumpet sound, something like that.
Yep.
But when you're sitting on a laptop and when you're on a computer, you're doing so many things at once. You're doing a little bit of mixing, a little composition, little sound design, all at the same time. And at
Yep.
least at the time, it wasn't taught as a unified art form. It wasn't taught as you're going to be mixing and composing and sound designing at the same time. So this is how to do those things side by side and hand in hand. And
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Gotti and Rob definitely opened my eyes to what the new school workflow is for that kind of thing.
I totally agree. Having seen those guys work, individually and together, they're just such inspiring artists. And I think like you're saying, it's one thing to experience the technical side of things, the academic side of things. It's another to put it into use, which anyone who goes to school for any art form has to relearn that art form in a sense once they leave the walls of that institution. And we got really lucky that we had some cats around us who were, kind of, firing everyone else up to want to do things now rather than waiting until we had the time and maybe not the time and not the money to really like cultivate our compositions and our
Yeah.
styles. And so yeah, lots of love to those guys, of course. And Memory 9, of course, is killing it on Ninja Tune now. I mean, he's
Yeah.
been working for them for a long time. Another thing that you brought to mind back then was there were a lot of former students who were working at Berklee, and some of them would be lab techs, studio techs, studio monitors, and in their time that they were set to work at Berklee as a lab monitor or something like that, they would sometimes take the time out and do workshops, right? Like
Yeah.
Dave Lindenbank was, who now works doing all the documentation, I believe, for Bitwig.
Bitwig, yeah.
He would do workshops on Max MSP during his lab hours, and like, back then we were all kind of pioneering that, or in the midst of that at-home bedroom studio producer world, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I would do most of my work at home, but then what would get me to come to school is, oh, Dave's doing a Max MSP workshop, so let's go get schooled on Max MSP. And that was really, I think, the modular intro for me.
Oh yeah,
seeing those guys doing it.
that's awesome. Yeah, really good generation. I think we came from.
Yeah, absolutely. We got really lucky.
When I went to Berklee, we were actually the first generation of students that were required to have laptops.
Oh yeah.
That they
That's
got.
2003. Was
Yeah,
the
that
first
was
year.
2003,
Yeah.
and so I mean, I kind of feel like the same. I think they call us the Oregon Trail generation. The generation of elementary school students that grew up playing Oregon Trail.
Yeah.
In a very big way. I feel like we're that of Berklee. Like we're
Yeah.
the first ones that had a laptop, and I can't describe how much the personal laptop has just changed the paradigm of all of music. I really believe that one day we're going to look back to right now, like 100 years from now, we're going to look back to right now, and the laptop's going to be considered a folk instrument.
Absolutely.
In the
yeah.
same way that a guitar and a violin is.
Yeah.
Why is a guitar and a violin a folk instrument but not a grand piano? It's because you had to be rich to own a grand piano. You needed
Absolutely.
education and access. And the guitar and the violin and the banjo and all these things are cheap instruments. They're things that the common people have access to.
Yeah.
So
Also, instruments that you can steal, as opposed to a piano. You can't roll a piano out of the music store. But
that's where you're wrong.
Yeah, right. Why didn't the Sex Pistols think about that? Johnny Rotten could have been pushing a piano out out the
Well,
door.
do,
But
do you know about the big blackout that happened in New York in the 1970s that
yeah,
basically created hip hop?
yes, yeah,
Yeah, I mean, for better or for worse, there was a big old blackout in New York, and there was a bunch of looting. And after that, all of a sudden, a bunch of poor people had like turntables and
yep,
microphones and sound systems. And even though that was probably just, I mean, I can't think of a worse hit for people trying to sell musical stuff and equipment. That created a cultural revolution, but it was a
yeah,
transfer of wealth to a lower class. And what
sure,
came of that? The
More
music
wealth.
that we love. More wealth.
yep,
Oh my God.
absolutely.
Imagine that concept. Yeah,
Yeah.
And it's we see the parallel in our time with cracked plugins, people using cracked
Oh, you're
DAWs,
absolutely right. Yeah.
and there's entire styles of music, especially styles that have now come from regional locations or maybe turned into global styles, but come from all over the world, are influenced from all over the world, like Moombaton, Klom. I can't pronounce it right, but Klom from South Africa. Do you know
No,
Klom?
but that sounds great. You got a little tongue click as you're saying it.
It's the Zulu word for drum.
Wow.
Klom. It's spelled GQOM, I believe.
That sounds
And
awesome.
yeah, I got it right the third time.
Oh, nice, nice.
But the it's like house and footwork kind of put together in
Oh, that's
a
awesome.
way that sounds totally special for this certain region of South Africa.
This is exciting, and this is actually my first time announcing it. This year I'm going to go to Africa Burn.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I'm gonna go to the Burning Man in Africa, and one of the things I'm most excited about is seeing the DJs out there and talking about the music scene out there. I mean, all the world's greatest drums come from Africa. I mean,
Absolutely, drums, rhythms,
rhythms.
sounds.
I mean, I'm
Absolutely.
sure there's a lot of Latinos that would probably not like to hear me say that, but I mean,
Well,
it's also they also got a lot of the influence of what they're doing in Latin America from Africa
of
too.
course.
And anyway, I just imagine that the dance music out there is just really connected to the roots, and I can't wait to hear the music
Tell
people
us
are
about
dropping.
that a little bit. Where does that happen?
Oh, Africa Burn is in South Africa, and it is one of the largest burns in the southern hemisphere. And I've always wanted to go because I've seen pictures, and I mean, I love Burning Man. And the thing about regional burns is that most of the time they don't have art cars, and
Yeah,
and it doesn't feel like being out in the desert like in Nevada. But Africa Burn looks like Burning Man. They got art cars, they got open air fire. It just looks and feels like it's going to be a smaller version of Burning Man. I'm looking
wow.
forward to it.
Does that happen concurrently with Burning Man, like at the same time, or is it staggered throughout the year?
No, no, regionals are staggered.
Okay,
I mean, you could probably bet that any given weekend there's a regional somewhere in the world.
sure. And these are different from the like decompression party concept. Do they still do that?
Yeah, burners love to party, don't
Yeah,
they?
it's kind of goes with
There's a
the territory,
decompression
huh?
to every party, and also a run up, probably fundraisers and stuff.
That makes
But yeah,
sense.
they're separate. I mean, it's a burner party is just anything created by the community. That's what I like about burner parties. That it almost feels like blockchain. It's
Mm-hmm.
not like you have to. It's not like boiler room where you have to go get like branding to have a to have a boiler room party.
Sure.
And with burner regionals, all you have to do is adhere to the 10 principles of Burning Man, and you got yourself a regional.
It's an open source festival concept.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's great.
I love it.
Um, that sounds like a fantastic journey,
Mm-hmm.
even just getting there. Speaking of journeys, tell us about how you got to where you are now. Where, like, tell us where you come from. What's your story getting to Berkeley, Valencia, and what you do today?
Sure. Yeah. Well, yeah, I graduated from Berkeley, Boston, and so I was kind of I knew a lot of the players in the Ableton community around there and
Even before that,
music
where
production.
were you before Berkeley?
Before Berkeley, I grew up in Alaska actually, in Kenai, Alaska. And yeah, I knew like almost every musician in like 100-mile radius. So
Wow.
I was originally into electronic music because you could download a free drummer. You could download a free bass player, and I was really into like industrial music, like Nine Inch Nails and stuff. Like, wow, that's such a cool sound. I felt like I remember hearing like some songs by like Nine Inch Nails and White Zombie and Marilyn Manson, and hearing the synthesizers and being like, that's harder than hard. That is like crazier than just electric guitar, and kind of being drawn into it from that angle. But then I got to Berklee and I got really into glitch and crazy sound design, and I stuck around Boston because I met Zebbler and I met kind of the Boston burner community, and just kind of created a really nice community of people who I admired. Not created. I just kind of found myself surrounded by really inspiring people, and so I stuck around Boston for quite a while, and we started Zebbler Encanti Experience, and I tried freelancing. I did a lot of different things, but one thing I kept doing was I kept going and talking about how to make electronic music. I just really enjoyed it. I ran the Ableton user group. It was one of the first ones in the country, and I would frequently go out and just give talks and tutorials and stuff. And that kind of culminated in a couple of friends of mine opened a music production school in Cambridge called Maven.
Yeah,
Awesome guys.
totally.
And
Were they linked up with the Together Festival
yeah,
somehow?
same
Yeah.
same crew with Together, and they had me come out and basically write a class for them and teach it when they open. And at the time, it just turned out I really needed a gig. I was needing something to get me through the winter months, and they were opening in January. I was like, score! So I got in and I taught for I developed a curriculum and taught for about 3 months. 4 months came by, and all of a sudden I got a call from Stephen Weber at Berklee. It says, "Hey, we're starting a new college. We're starting a master's degree in Spain, and we're looking for someone with exactly your skill set." I'm talking to people, and they're saying you're the one teaching electronic music. So before I knew it, I was moving to Spain, and I got in on the ground floor of Berklee Valencia, the music production, technology, and innovation program.
Wow.
And I'm really really proud of the work that we've done over there. I mean, everything that we were just talking about, and that when we went to school at Berklee, um, the uh, the art of the laptop, the art of combining sound design and composition and mixing when you're thinking about music. I really wanted that to be the central core theme of my classes, to teach musical empowerment, not from an angle of like, you're the sound designer, but you have to send it to a mixing engineer to get it mixed.
Sure.
And you're the writer, but you don't have control over the sounds. That is not the new paradigm.
Mm-hmm.
People want control over their sounds. People like, I love James Blake, for instance.
Yep.
He sings his tracks. He's got this weird sound. Everyone is listening to Bon Iver too. He got his own sound. So I feel like there's a new generation of songwriters and musicians that just want that full control over their whole sound, and you can have that, just on a laptop. And I've really feel like that the program that we're running over there really empowers a new generation of creators and young people. It's a master's program, and it feels like 2 years fly by in like 10 months.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's perfect location, or it seems like the perfect time for that type of a program in terms of, the students at a master's level are really ready for that next level of really taking on the responsibilities of all of these different roles in the process, and so that's seems like a timely application of a lot of the things that you've been doing for a very long time. They're
Yeah,
lucky
yeah.
to get
No,
you.
I consider Berkeley Valencia to be one of my great life works. It's what the program that we built over there, the curriculum, the flow is something I'm extremely proud of. But right now I am actually on sabbatical. I was over in Valencia for 6 years, and I think that when you're at a job that requires so much of your energy and attention, then you disengage a little bit from the rest of the world.
For sure.
And I felt like I was getting a little bit out of touch with my community and my scene and honestly my profession. And I kind of wanted a year kind of back in the hustle life,
Yeah.
to build new connections, to come up with new ideas, to add value to what I'm bringing to the school. Honestly,
Absolutely.
I want to have my finger on the pulse of what I teach. It's not good enough to just teach something that you used to do. And I feel like I was getting a little far. At least my attention was a little separated from that. So that, yeah, this year is all about touring. It's about making new music. It is about opening new doors and trying new things and collaborating and meeting people and going places that I have been wanting to visit for a long time.
That's great. Yeah, I find working with students has a way, certainly, a really fulfilling way of keeping you fresh and up to date on what's happening. But it's another thing to be, neck deep
Doing
in it. And
Hmm.
yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And people like you and I think us, we need to have that experience of actually making music and playing it for people. And a lot of that time gets sucked away when we have to do all of the things involved in education. We still make time for it, of course, but it's a challenge at a point.
Yeah.
I kind of had that moment on Saturday at your guys' show.
Oh yeah.
And for those in LA, everyone knows I'm into pretty hard techno and been into that for a long time. But I haven't been to a bass show or dubstep or anything that you would consider different type of music than hard four to the floor. And to walk in there and like Joe was saying, I've been in the classroom for the last 5 or 6 years,
Mm.
and in June I left that situation, and so it's like the same thing. It's like the students all know what's up when they're young, so you're like, oh wow, that's what's all going on. But until you go out and kind of get in it, you still don't understand it. And so when I was out on Saturday night, it was just a whole different scene, different people, the approach to the music to the audience and what was coming back, like it was just different, and it kind of made me feel like, oh wait a minute, I've been seeing everything through this lens again, oh, and this other lens, and now I've removed them, and like the possibilities of having fun, and like, oh wait, I could go do this, and it just you know kind of let me know that, oh, you're human, man, you need to like not always wear the same fucking coat,
The same
like,
techno coat.
yeah.
Yeah,
Techno
the
guy
same.
goes to a bass music show. So vibe wise, do you think that like in bass music, I imagine that in a techno set, like I'm just walking into some club in Ibiza, the vibe is like kind of plateaued at a certain sweet spot,
I'm a
and
little
maybe
more
slowly goes up over the night. Bass music though is like, it's all out there.
I'm more into the warehouse scene, so we're pretty hard too. We're heavy, man. We're known to be pretty heavy,
You're
but
like, did you just say Ibiza?
bees. Exactly, exactly.
More
That's
like
not
Berghain,
my
bro.
kind of techno, bro.
That's like saying wook. Did you just say wook? Techno wook? Like, yeah, but no, it is interesting. I would say that crowd that you guys had wasn't the usual bass crowd either. That was a that and I was asking what is going on here because the symbolism that I was seeing, and um, it wasn't the usual, and so I was like, okay, these people are experiencing it differently than what I would consider the EDM scene, the electronic
Yeah.
music scene, the thing that we're from, which is, you know, what's your Spotify numbers? What's your are you on DistroKid? What are you using for distribution? That whole business sense of like I got business to do. I didn't
Business.
feel that there. I felt
Mm.
people having fun.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that was
I think that a lot of the vibe came down to the curation of the night. I got to give a shout out, by the way, to Sound Experiment. That's the crew that
Hmm.
brought us out. And the thing that I noticed about their lineup before we even got here was they selected artists that play all original content.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, Kill Smith, all his originals are so cool, and they run the gamut of house music to glitch hop.
Mm,
Mr. Bill is Mr. Bill,
sure.
and then Z is Z, and so then when they did the back and back, he had a solid 4 hours of original tunes,
Yeah.
and I think that I mean aesthetically, it just makes it inherently different from going out with like whatever the top 40 tunes are in your genre and just
Oh yeah.
playing bangers for the sake of people
A totally,
headbanging.
totally different vibe than a club. Totally different reaction to the music than a club. But all music that could work well in a club. And there's something I think, especially in a time where everyone is turning to DJing, uh, there's something very important in that, caught up in
Yeah.
that point.
I
I
think there
think.
was something special missing that you guys had, that thing, that vibe had, that's missing from all these other scenes,
Hmm.
and that was it. And I was like, oh, okay, so you guys had your bass, and then you would go into this improvisational like four to the floor, but dude, it's happy hardcore early '90s. There's this run up sound which I hadn't heard in a while, which is fun, right? It's a good time, and to watch that go into that and then back again, and I was like, wow, it's like being young again and stuff. And I was like, we forgot about this, and
Oh,
all,
I'm so
you know,
happy. Our music can
it,
make you feel young
yeah,
again.
it's trippy like
Oh,
that,
that's nice. That's so nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, that's very Z. I mean, I feel like if I was a chef, I would be the type that would invent the sushi burrito. Like I'm a,
Yeah,
I'm
makes
a,
sense.
like, every time I see like a cooking show and you see, this is my interpretation of a pizza, and it's like something that's not a pizza, and I kind of feel that way when I approach music as Z. I say, all right, this is my version of psytrance, and then it's going to lead to trap music, and we're gonna try to make the flavors blend. Here we go, a little bit of wasabi with the with the burrito. Let's do it.
Yeah.
And would you say I've heard you in the past use the term Psy-Trap as a descriptor for some of your music?
Yeah,
Do you
that's
guys have a sound?
some good branding,
I
right?
I love that name. Yeah.
I that combination of words came to my mind in about 2013, and yeah, it was just a concept of like digga 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 going to buh, 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 buh. And it's actually the same tempo,
Absolutely. Yeah.
about 140, 150, 160, just halftime and double time. And I heard it in my head. Honestly, I got to give a shout out to So Gutter, our roommate in Charlestown. I really got formative Z musical ideas just listening to him spin vinyl. When you have a
Oh
vinyl
yeah.
collection, you're just limited to whatever vinyl you have. And what he happened to have was techno and dubstep. And so what
Mm,
he would do is he'd start off with a techno thing,
sure.
and then speed it up a little bit to 140, slow down
Yep.
the dubstep maybe a little
There you
bit.
go.
They meet in the middle, and all of a sudden drop into bass. And I remember listening to this back in years ago, and thinking, why don't people just make tracks that sound like this? Why do you got to rely on the DJ to like do ingenious genre blending when you could just make a track that starts like that and then gets there?
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, and you guys do that so well. I mean, there's you every track is like going on a journey. It's clear how much effort you guys put into each one of your tracks, and obviously, then, if you're paying attention, the video content is equally as
Mhm.
in depth, and then to hear that for an hour of live performance from track to track, it was very. Uh, Saturating. It kind of really felt like you were being enveloped by a lot of different sounds and taken to a lot of different places, and the visual content just helped to catapult that into another dimension. So it's really a next level show, and I hope people can make it out to catch that at some point in your tour. Um, what do you think about the future for 2020 for Z? What are your plans for the near and far future?
Right, yeah. Well, I'm on my sabbatical, and I'm having a great time out here, and having time to work on music and play shows. In 2020, we're about to announce a tour with Symbionic. I think it's okay to say, um, and that's going to be in January or February, so that's coming up real soon.
That's
And
great.
then I think that we'll probably do another tour in May, and then try to hit as many festivals as we can in the
In the
summer.
summer.
And yeah, just kind of put feelers out there, look for opportunities. Z is moving over to a new agency. We're going to be on Pivotal um, as of January 1st.
Great.
And this team is an all-star team. I'm really excited about working with these guys because one of the guys, Jesse Breed, is also the founder of Gravitas Records, which Z
Oh,
has
right.
been releasing music on since 2012.
Yeah.
So it's like having a guy on your team that like knows you from when your music started up till now, and is a fan and supporter on such a level beyond business. You
Sure.
know,
Yeah.
so I feel like we're gonna do some really open some interesting doors this year.
I remember when you guys started working with Gravitas, and that kind of got me to direct some attention over there, and I've been on their mailing list ever since then. And what a growth they've had as well.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, it's just it was something waiting to happen. I remember it was just in maybe 2011. I just had this epiphany that psychedelic bass exists. It's a thing. It's something you can get involved with, and that I want to hear, and that I think that people wanted to hear, and I feel like Gravitas had that same epiphany at the same time. And at the time, I had some original Z tracks. I was looking for a place to put them, and our friend Great Scott said, "Hey, my buddy Jesse is opening a new label, and it's psychedelic bass. Maybe you guys can get along." So Z was one of the first artists on the Gravitas roster. I think it
Yeah.
was like the fourth or fifth release.
Yeah, I thought so. I thought it was really early on in those days, and
I feel like we've grown well together.
absolutely, yeah. I mean, it's kind of spectacular to see how big that whole scene has grown. So it's
Earlier in the year, did you guys make it to the Spungle show in Colorado?
I did make it to the Spangle show in Colorado.
I knew it.
Yeah.
oh yeah, I think you were involved in that somehow, weren't you?
I was on stage.
See, so I was going to bring that up earlier in this interview. So,
Yeah, I did the playback engineering.
I'm
Oh,
the
awesome.
I'm the hippie of the techno scene
Oh yeah.
in that thing. Like
I think that's
relax.
called a wook.
I just don't wear nice shoes. That's
Dun,
the
dun,
only
dun.
thing.
Oh, I think those are nice shoes. This guy's a liar. He's got great shoes down here.
Girlfriend bought those
Oh,
for me.
you know
I
what?
didn't do that.
Give a shout out to the girlfriend.
Oh,
She
thank
got
you.
great taste in shoes.
They're good shoes.
Yeah, I mean, you should have seen my shoes until recently. I mean, these aren't very nice shoes, but man,
I was
I've
giving
been
her
wearing bum shoes for the last couple.
the woman to really make you laugh. I was giving her prognosis of the current state of the club scene and music scene and all that. And then she came back with these shoes. You need some fire in your life. That's what they represent.
Those are wook shoes, for the record.
Life redefining moments this morning. Speaking of shoes, it seems like one of the places I see a lot of cool shoes is Icon Collective, where I do some teaching. And I saw that you were over at Icon doing a talk the other day.
Yeah, Mr. Bill and I were there doing a Q&A, and it was kind of like a workshop, but most of it was just kind of directed from who was there. Oh my gosh, though, we filled up this big room. There was like tons of young producers there, and all of them had awesome questions. Like they were making cool stuff. I mean, really deep, good questions about the nature of sound design and making music and decision making in general. So you could feel that Icon Collective has a really good vibe going on, really vibrant creator community that's happening right there in their walls.
Yeah, it's a good like group of names to be amongst in terms of people who have gone to do Q&As there too. They've had some really wild characters come in and do Q&As, and yeah, glad you got a chance to get over there. It's a
Yeah.
different
I
vibe.
signed their wall. They have a big Icon
Yes,
Collective thing. and
exactly.
a bunch of people's names on it, so I got my little
Yeah, it's a
little
good wall to
tag
be
there.
on. Exactly.
Good wall to be on.
Speaking of teaching and students and Valencia and Maven and these schools you've been involved with, are there any students who have stuck out in your mind? Any students who are have come out of the wall? I know this is a dangerous
you can't ask me
conversation,
that,
but-
Joe. I mean, I've had so many students, and if I forget one right now, I might.
Oh
like,
yeah, well,
I
know it's
so many. I gotta say though, I mean, I I feel like I get just as much from working around the students as they might get from being there at Berkeley, Valencia too, because you've got makers, musicians, artists, producers that are coming here from all corners of the earth, and I am constantly learning about what inspires these incredible, talented people. Like for instance, this last year, we had a student from Chile, and
which is interesting because I was going to ask you, are you going to that?
I am not going to that, but that looks cool. Oh, it's the total eclipse in Chile.
Yeah.
I'd like to go to that. That sounds great. If I'm invited, I'll go.
Yeah.
um, but I actually did not know about the Chilean Revolution in the 70s. I didn't know about the
Yeah.
genocide that happened. I mean,
Yes.
it was really bad. And one of the things that happened during that era, which is quite recent,
Yes.
is the fascist government cracked down on all forms of free expression, including um, making musicians. And
Absolutely. Yeah.
there was there's so many artists like Victor Jara and like oh man, I got a list. I got a Spotify playlist now of Chilean artists that were actually making really cool, forward-thinking 70s music in Chile. There was a vibrant scene.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I learned through my student about this whole lost genre because the government came in, and I mean, one of these guys, this guy Victor Jara, they broke his hands
Oh yeah.
publicly
They threw
to
people out of
for
helicopters.
writing songs about peace.
Yeah.
For writing songs about why I want to have peace, you know.
Mhm.
There's a lot of unrest in Chile right now,
Right
and a
now,
lot
yeah.
of those
Oh,
songs
yeah.
are coming back, you know. Anyway, I learned about these atrocities, and it gave the music from that era new meaning for me. And what the student did was he produced an album that sounded exactly like that era,
Yeah.
and it was just, you could tell the project, he was so passionate about it, he had a purpose, it was cultural preservation, and it was just, he is such a personal touch put into it. And I mean, I was moved, you know.
I
And
bet.
also I'm into a new genre of music now. I'm into 70s Chilean rock and folk music from that era. So yeah, I feel like my students bring with their inspirations, with what they're passionate about, they inspire me, and they open my eyes to new rhythms and genres and forms of music making that I feel like has really had a great impact on me in the last couple of years.
Yeah. It's and Berkeley attracts such a wide variety of students from all over the world. People who are already successful, people who are on their way up. I mean, when I was there, Dr. Dre was taking classes along with some of the students.
Whoa.
So
Dope.
yeah, it was very interesting community that comes to Berkeley, and that comes out of that. So
Wow.
very cool. Our friend Dot was there this couple of years ago.
Dot was my student this last year.
There you
Oh,
go.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's an incredible musician, incredible established
Awesome
artist with
producer.
a label, and yeah, great person, and
We've all been part of the same community for a while.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, oh wait, I just took him out. I had my hippie crystal that she had gotten with her mom on some hike in the mountains, and she had given it to me, but I just took it out. But
yeah, we used to work with her at
You're
Dub
carrying a
Spot.
hippie crystal.
I was.
And you're not a wook.
Admissions. This keeps deepening.
This keeps deepening.
My bottle of organic honey oil.
Uh, yeah, no, Dot was absolutely, incredibly talented. I think for her, well, one thing that school does, I think beyond the information, because honestly, like, you don't need to go to school to find a tome of information anymore. Like,
Absolutely.
we're not keepers of some secrets. It's all out there. If
good
not in the
stuff.
manuals, then at least on a YouTube tutorial. You can go to your channel, you can go anywhere. Honestly, if I needed to learn something, I probably, at this point in the world, don't need to go somewhere to talk to somebody. So what's the value in school? What's the why go to an institution, spend thousands of dollars
Yep.
to go and learn something that you probably could learn on YouTube. And I think that that's an existential question that every academic institution should be asking.
Yep.
And to me, the answer is time and headspace
Mm-hmm.
is absolutely invaluable, especially if you can get that guided by some kind of mentor or crew, a community of people that are pushing you to get to another level. I mean, really, as you get older, you just get busy. You have kids, you have relationships, you have jobs, you have things you need to do. You're always treading water, and you just don't have time to sit down and like learn how to do max. This time. It's time and energy. So a lot of students that come to Berkeley, who are coming in already maybe with careers or they're already established in some form or another. The real benefit of going to school is having a year to yourself, a year of growth, and a year of just being left alone while you work and think about one thing that you're really passionate about. And I think that that is the one thing that we don't talk about enough in the value in academic institution, time and space.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree, and that point gets lost on a lot of maybe more uh, um, scandalous subject matter. But people love talking about binge drinking and college being an overpriced, blah blah blah, all those things that kind of try to cut against academia, and
Well, it goes to show
you
it
know,
is what you make it. I
it
mean,
is. It
if
really is.
you make college about binge drinking, then that's what your college experience is about.
Yeah, or you prioritize going to a school that has that reputation. You're more likely to come out of it with a less of a useful
Yeah.
education and more of
But I
some
mean,
time
those
wasted.
reputations aren't created by the teachers and the institution
Certainly not.
themselves.
Yeah.
They're created by the students coming there and saying, "Well, I've decided to go this route." And I mean, the energy is what you bring to it. If you're gonna go into a school and you really really want to learn stuff, you bring that energy, and it's your energy that makes it happen. But like, I can't teach to a rock and have it expect to learn something.
Yep.
It's a 50-50 mutual relationship. The school gives a place, hopefully some equipment, hopefully some room time, hopefully a sufficient amount of class time,
Hmm.
and the rest is up to you what you do with it.
And one real benefit also I think that gets glanced over is a community, right? A
Yeah.
network, a community of people. This is something that was lost on me when I was in school, but once I was out of school, it all came rushing to the front because the network and the community of people who you build around you, as you were saying earlier in your time in Boston, this this has a lot to do with where you find work and kind of support even in what we do. And there's a lot of times in the arts, especially in the music world, maybe even more so, where we're all needing some support. We need that mechanism to let us know that this isn't a complete waste of time, and having other people around us who we see having similar struggles and also
Absolutely.
successes and failures, and not being completely shattered by certain failures. That's another, I think, very valuable thing that comes from, hopefully, from picking the right organization.
Yeah, I just got in a conversation about this the other day that uh, it's so important to be either surrounded by people who inspire you or in an inspiring place or both. Super bonus if you can get both. I mean, a lot of the time people might not be in love with the city that they're in, but it's the community there that just, can just make you feel so much more empowered than somewhere else. You have people that support you, whether that is artistically, creatively, emotionally. Uh, that is just so important to your mental and spiritual and creative well-being. Or you could be in a place where there's maybe not a lot of people that maybe not a community, but if you're in a place where you feel really the most yourself or your best self, then that's good too. I
Hmm.
think that anywhere you live, you got to have at least one of those. If you're in a situation where you're not around people that inspire you, it's not a place that inspires you, there's probably no reason to be there as an artist, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I say 1 out of 2 is the best that you can ask for. But if you can get both, then
And we constantly strive to find those things, right? Like if you want to be a part of a movement, of a scene, of an artistic community, then you have to be also out there supporting it. You can't be doing doing all the taking, I suppose. And I tell this to students all the time that you need to get out and mingle with the people who are doing what you want to be doing, and that's where those opportunities are going to come from. It's not from
yeah,
even making the
participate.
best
Otherwise,
tracks.
you're a custy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
You're a
exactly.
customer. There's
Exactly.
customers, and then there's
Yeah,
participants.
then there's the regulars, like the
Yeah.
people who everyone knows their names. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. The people who are actively engaging and helping that thing. So yeah, I think that's and the people who are doing it recognize those people, right?
Hmm.
Like the Gravitas Records recognize who's out there hustling. The Steven Webbers see
Yeah,
that
no,
you're
and I
out there doing the
absolutely
thing.
I stand on the shoulder of giants. I would
Yeah,
not be
yeah,
anywhere I am if it wasn't for some people helping me at various points along the way. I mean, constantly, and it
That's how we
yeah,
learn.
just really really important to check yourself always like that and realize that it is the community that unlocks your real self.
yep, yeah. I think that's very important, and it's very easy to be strayed
Mm, yeah.
to other places. So, I think we always have to be reassessing and considering: is this really what I care about? Am I doing the things that have deep meaning to me? And because why bother if not?
Yeah, I think that's probably the true north for most artists. I think actually most artists don't wonder, like musicians at least, they don't wonder if they're a musician. You wake up every day and you're like, this is so who I am. It's such a part of my identity. And but then it comes down to am I doing the right things to honor that side of myself?
Mm-hmm.
Am I balancing it with everything else I need in life?
Yep.
And finding that balance and finding your flow in being who you're supposed to be takes a lifetime.
It does. It takes practice. Takes attention.
Yeah, you don't stop being a musician. Really I love the guy that hired me at Berkeley Valencia is now the director at Berkeley New York City, which is opening its doors next year.
Ah.
Stephen Weber. One time I was at a orientation with some undergraduates that were coming into Berkeley Valencia, and Stephen is really good at talking to groups of people. I mean, he's such a sharp orator. And anyways, one student asked, kind of out of the blue, philosophically, said, "How do we know we're supposed to be here? How do I know that music's right for me?" And without skipping a beat, Steven looks him right in the eye and says, "If you can do anything else, do that." Because
Yeah.
it is a hard road.
Yeah.
It is not fun most of the time. I mean, and I can attest right now, like I go on Facebook and a lot of the people I went to high school with are enjoying like, their second house, their second truck. They got the white picket fence and they probably have a beautiful bed to sleep in. And last night I slept on a couch. And I don't have a car, and I think musicians settle for less in some parts of their life and then are really rich in other areas of their life, and if that's not you, if you're not cut out for that, if you really need that stability that comes with a normal
Sleep.
lifestyle, then music's just not. It's a uphill battle. Don't bother. Go
Yeah.
go do what something else, and I loved that answer because it was without skipping a beat. It's like music's not something that you decide to do. You don't decide to do music. You have to do it. If you
Yeah.
don't
You're
do it, you
compelled.
die.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that's probably the best advice someone could give. And when you've been hustling and living that life for so long, and people question that level of it, it's kind of like, well, if you're asking, you better be having those deeper conversations with yourself. No one else is going to answer that question for
It
you.
was such a great
So
simple answer.
yeah,
It's such a good simple answer of like if yeah,
I feel like
shit or get off the pot.
yeah, I feel like that was one of the benefits of the Berklee education. There was quite a bit of that sort of get your shit together.
Yeah,
It's
yeah. I mean,
time.
I think that that even though at Berkeley, I feel like um, that the topics are still a little separated
Hmm.
as compared to what I'm trying to do at Berkeley Valencia
Sure.
and kind of unite the topics. Even though the professors that they have there shared some of the most brilliant life advice that I've ever had. I mean, they have such a solid crew of caring, kind people working there, and I think that that's the trade off when you have like a hip young educator such as us. Like, yeah, you might have new lingo and new ideas and bring new fire to the table. But the people that have been there for like 20 years, like you cannot be in education for 20 years without being completely selfless. You've just
Absolutely.
you've just put down your life to pave the way for so many people to find themselves and to fulfill their destinies. That is so cool, and it comes with a lot of insight about the world and life and nature reality that they're able to share and pass on. So
Yeah, and they've worked so hard now to bring this the current state of the program that we used to be involved with, which was once the music synth program, and now it's they've converted this whole thing that
EPD.
we talked about
Yeah.
with regard to the laptop being the instrument, being that central device that is uh, uh, spurring this folk movement of all these different styles of music. They've finally convinced the school to recognize this as an instrument and as a central piece of not just school life, but of the our sector of the industry. And of course, it goes much deeper than that. They've left a lot of room open in terms of what that electronic music instrument
Yeah.
is.
Did you
But
hear Daedalus just went out there?
I just saw him. I was out there in October, and
Oh,
we
cool.
got to have coffee. And he was one of the first people
That's
when I
so
was
cool.
coming here. He was one of the first people I contacted because I wanted to get involved in that community, and
It's so cool they got him out there. I mean, he
it
is
is.
just the Jimi Hendrix of the
Oh,
mono.
absolutely. Yeah, I mean he's I think one of the pioneers of this current age.
Yeah, controllerism and stuff.
Yeah,
I love Berkeley for that. We got a lot to talk about Berkeley today. I
yeah.
love
You're
Berkeley
welcome.
for shout out for being the at the vanguard of of contemporary art form. Yeah, I was thinking about the difference between a conservatory and a liberal arts college the other day, and it's actually quite interesting. At a conservatory, they're really trying to preserve a way of thought. They're trying to preserve an art form. So, for instance, playing violin is a conservatory, and they have certain levels. Like, if you can play this Mozart piece, you're a level 5 violin player. You know what I'm saying? There's established um, levels of how great you are in a lot of the times in conservatories because they're preserving a great art form. I mean, it
Hmm.
makes sense. This is in theater and music, and these are long established motifs of self expression that need to be preserved. In liberal arts, though, you have stuff like projection mapping. Like, who's to say that you've done a good projection map? Well, I don't know. Bring in someone who knows how to do projection mapping, and they'll be the authority. And I feel like Berkeley has been like leading the way for a century in being one of the first colleges to recognize those new art forms and to bring it into the academic setting. And ultimately, they will become art forms that you can do at a conservatory. One day there will be, turn of the century projection mapping will be a class, I don't know. And uh I just think it's really cool. Like they did it with the electric guitar. I feel Berkeley was one of the first schools that taught rock guitar technique and metal guitar technique. Right now, electronic music is the new electric guitar.
Yeah.
When I went in 2003, all the guys played electric guitar. We all wanted to be rock stars, you know. But
Mm-hmm.
now everyone wants to be Dead Mouse, you know. Everyone wants to
Yeah.
be that DJ on stage and stuff. And yeah, Berkeley's adapted quite quickly, actually, compared to like every other college. It's
Absolutely.
really hard to move an academic machine to incorporate a new paradigm and a new way of thinking.
Especially one that large. It's a large institution.
Huge
So
institution, yeah.
I think and I think the uh, sort of combining of the academic and the technical and the established tradition of the art form, along with the acknowledgement of the importance of creativity for the musician, is another kind of difference between uh, the traditional conservatory mindset and the
and
what
and,
we have
and the
today.
more liberal arts,
Right,
yeah.
where we kind of expect people to be doing some of their own original creative work in the schools that we're involved with, quite a bit actually, in our particular programs. But um, I think in the traditional sense, the playing is of other people's work is considered the more primary focus of the talent, right? They do have composition programs, of course, because you
Yeah.
have to play someone's work. But
No, I hear what you're saying. You're totally right. There's an unprecedented pressure on creators right now to be creative.
yeah,
It used to be that you could just like learn how to do an instrument or something or be a producer and not really have to make any creative decision. You just kind of follow a script or something. But yeah, I mean, now artists are getting into the classroom or they're getting out into the world and they're realizing, you know, if you want to be especially an electronic musician, you are a sound designer, you're an arranger, and you're a composer and you're a mixing engineer and maybe you're a mastering engineer, but there's more. You're also your own social media manager. You're managing this online public image of yourself. You have uh, uh, the more that you can do on your own, the less you have to like pay someone else to do.
yeah.
And I mean, in this economy, like you really can't get started unless you do a lot of the front you front load a lot of the work yourself. So it's really interesting, actually. Being a teacher, I find myself like talking about how to market yourself, even though I've never really taken a marketing class. I've just kind of figured it out based on like what's worked and what hasn't and stuff. And it's everyone needs to know about that stuff. It's a constant conversation that I don't think they used to have back in the day. You know, one really fun exercise is to take a look at the Wikipedia page for a song like Thriller by Michael Jackson back in the 80s. If you look at how many people worked on that song,
Yeah.
like 100 people worked on Thriller,
Mm-hmm.
from the lyrics to the engineering, like
Choreography,
choreography.
videos,
That's not even the
everything.
video.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
exactly.
just the song was a whole production house. And a lot of those production houses are just closing down. They just
Yeah,
don't have enough business.
yeah.
And you know, the music making machine must move on, and the individual now has the burden of being 100 different things.
Well, I think there's a split mentality there too, because in Hollywood, I think there's always been a reward based system for having a production process like that, where if your product, and I think this still exists to a certain degree, where if your album, if your track is done by you and you alone. Maybe Neil Young might be an exception, of course, because he had great success early on. But there seems to be a continuing thread related to the subject that you're mentioning, where the industry likes it when you involve more people, right? The industry rewards the
Right.
people who go out
It
make it
provides
a bigger process.
legitimacy if they see that you have a label, for instance,
There's that, yeah.
or if you have a team, then they know you're not just kind of hacking
Sure,
forward.
there's that part. I think, like you see on a record. Oh, you got all the top songwriters involved in the writing of these songs, or you've got a couple of guest artists who have established credibility in these worlds. But I think there's also kind of this mentality of we have to spread the wealth, especially with something like a Michael Jackson record, where there's going to be almost guaranteed so much money coming back through this thing. To spread that out a little bit to all of these other industries that require something to stay afloat, right?
Yeah.
And in L.A. and Hollywood, there's these people are all going to be struggling to a degree anyway, and if there isn't some system in place that's keeping everybody fed, the past many years that's kind of started to dissolve quite a bit for many reasons, including the fact that everyone's doing computer-based production and things like
Yeah,
this.
I mean, well, LA is its own microclimate on its
True,
own,
absolutely, and of course, this is one of the few
This is
places
own
where you might
not
have.
microclimate, ecosystem. That's the
Yeah,
word I'm looking for. I feel like there's the rest of the world and there's the rules in the rest of the world with the entertainment industry,
sure,
and then there's LA.
absolutely.
LA's like a nation state in entertainment. And one thing I like about LA that I also like about Vegas is the creative people have like unionized. And there's like so many creative people and they want to be treated fairly, and they all get together, and they're a powerful presence as a collective in a lot of these cities. And
The
I
music, the
I love
music
that you
world
can get
is
by on that.
the music world is still working on it. It seems.
Yeah.
There's just a story this week about the composers for Discovery Channel and all their channels, and how and Netflix for that matter, all now pushing their composers to relinquish royalties for the works that they sell to these entities, to these channels, and which would decimate their income because most of it comes from
Well, I mean,
reshowing
you
and
could on the other hand, you could still work out a deal to where you get like a larger lump sum.
that is, yeah, that does seem to be the counter to that, because most shows are going to be probably unsuccessful anyway.
Yeah, yeah, it's
Uh,
it's it's a it's a it's a risk sort of thing,
exactly, yeah.
and I've done that before too. I did a Ableton tutorial series, and these guys were like, "Yeah, man, like we sell these tutorials, and I'm not gonna say who it was, but
Yeah.
that we sell these tutorials, and you could make like $10,000 like in a couple months, like on these tutorials." I was like, "Great," and I made it, and it was a royalty split, and like they ended up not selling like hardly any, and I wasted so much time because I did royalty instead of
Yeah,
a big
of
buyout.
course,
I
yeah.
would have rather just taken like, a couple grand and then just cut ties,
Sure.
And
It is a risk,
it's
absolutely.
yeah, it's always a gamble whether or not you're going to whether you're going to take a cut or not, because I mean, if it's just on you to if you're collecting royalties, then it kind of takes a little incentive off of them to sell it, because you share in the rewards, but you also share in the losses.
Yeah, absolutely. And with something that's kind of on a timeline basis, like a version of software or something like that, then the potential lifetime of that thing is shortened. As opposed to music, if you're making a track and you take some ownership of of the Seinfeld theme or something like that, and then all of a sudden, maybe not even immediately, maybe like maybe a cult show would be a better example of this. A cult show that maybe came to popularity after it was off the air, like The Expanse or something like that, which had popularity for a moment, a small popularity, but then it got canceled. They brought it back, and now it's kind of blowing up again. Um, that's it's clearly a risk assessment that we have to make in that.
Hmm.
Um, but the I guess the point was that the film composers tried a long time ago. They actually had a union, I believe, back in the 60s and 70s, and then it dissolved in the 70s for some reason, and they've never really been able to bring it back together. And as such, all these things, just like everything else in this industry, everything is chipping away at their what their expected paycheck was going to
Oh,
look like.
I didn't know that. That's really interesting.
But
Yeah.
so the directors and the actors are still pretty well covered, though.
I'd love to spend more time out here in LA. This is a really vibrant community, and
It's a weird place.
It's kind of felt as an outsider. The scene kind of feels a little impenetrable. L.A. and New York, you're your own ecosystem, and there's 10 different things going on every single night for any kind of music that you want to listen to. So why come to my show? You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely, yeah.
It's really really hard to go to New York and play, and someone's like, "Oh, just down the street there's like three other artists in the same genre as you playing that are bigger than you, so we're going to that one." You know what I'm saying? It's really hard to be a middle class artist, and that's why I
Yeah.
consider myself. By the way, I think we're a rare breed. I am a middle class artist. That means that I'm like not the big font on the flyer,
Yeah.
and I'm not the little one. I'm right somewhere in between, and I just make enough to like be able to have some nice things every now and then, and I keep my computer upgraded and do something like Africa Burn. But I'm not like gonna be getting my own private helicopter anytime soon.
Yeah. And there's still risk assessments going on.
And there's still risk assessments going on, right? I keep having this conversation. I would be the most irresponsible billionaire. like and I kind of resent billionaires for not being like more outrageously irresponsible. Like if you were Jeff Bezos, like imagine like just getting like kind of drunk and just walking around and being like, oh man, I'm gonna buy that, and and I'm gonna give it to that guy.
Yeah.
you know
Buy a football team.
it's just like, and then forget about it the next day and have it have no impact on your life.
Yeah.
Like you could be Batman. Like you could do such fun things, and the fact that billionaires don't is kind of irritating.
Well,
Other than Elon Musk.
I was going to say we have
yeah,
a local
I mean, it's like,
billionaire that's
yeah, he's got like his flamethrower company. That's pretty cool.
trying to dig tunnels under LA to skip traffic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's I feel that's like a certain little window into
I'd love
your
to have that on my
personality.
tombstone one day. Ben Cantil, irresponsible billionaire.
I could back that. I could
But
get
then
into
again,
that.
it's like you don't become a billionaire by being irresponsible.
That's so
I
true.
think that they're like, technically they're unrelated for a reason. Though I heard that what's that? Floyd Mayweather, that
Yeah,
boxer?
sure.
I think he's technically illiterate. I might be wrong on this, so I'm sorry, Floyd. Don't hurt me if you hear this. But I think he's illiterate, and he has an enormous amount of money all of a sudden from boxing. And a friend of mine told me that one time he just ordered a whole room to be filled with like really beautiful ceramic vases, and then he put on roller skates and skated around the room, breaking the vases for fun. And
That's
that sounds
amazing.
like an amazing
sounds
use
like-
of being a. I mean, it sounds like an enormous waste, but like that's a. If you're gonna have a ridiculous amount of money, please do ridiculous things.
Yeah.
This world is already normal.
It sounds like a Aphex Twin story or something. Like,
Taking pictures and performance art makes you making even more money.
I know, yeah, but I go out to Burning Man every year, and that's a good place where you can see things that ridiculous
have no
amounts of money
sense.
can
Yeah.
can get you. Like there was one camp that like I heard that from someone who was doing their catering. Just they had $1 million budget just to blow on their
What?
stage. And I was like, wow, that's I mean, it's a drop in the bucket if you're a billionaire. And but these guys brought like festival level stage out just for fun.
Yeah. Well, you want to keep your friends happy and support the cause if you're a billionaire too, I guess. So that's funny. Well, dang. Thank you so much, Ben, for coming and doing this. And I think there's just like so much more we could talk about for hours and hours. But you've dropped a lot of
Yeah. Okay.
Knowledge here.
Before we go, I'm gonna plug one
yes,
thing.
yeah, plug it away.
Because this is an educational channel. We've talked a lot about education. Actually, this has been really, really awesome, and how much we've kind of unpacked, the current state of education and the nature of learning right now in this era about electronic music. And I am preparing to start a new chapter in my educational career. I am going to announce probably next week a music production retreat that I'm going to be hosting in the Highlands of Scotland. And I'm going to be taking 10 people out to a really beautiful house that my lovely girlfriend Catherine has built called Eagle Rock. And anyone can Google Eagle Rock, Scotland, just see the absolute gorgeous vistas and get a vibe for the flow of the place. Anyway, I've
That's
been
Eagle Rock, Scotland, not Eagle Rock, California.
right Eagle Rock, Scotland. It can sleep 14, but I'm gonna have 10 people come out. It's gonna be an application process to come out, and we're gonna do a 7-day immersion into music production where I'm gonna be your private instructor, and we're gonna do daily workshops. But most of all, you're gonna have free time in absolute silence in a completely gorgeous, like spiritually transformative environment to have a little time and space to improve that production. Hopefully, people walk away with a new track or two, maybe some collaborations. But I want to start doing this. I want to start doing 10 people that you really get to know over like a week. You have no distractions, and you're out there for any hours of the day and night working on what you love. And anyway, it's going to be called a beat retreat. We're going to do the first one in the spring, and if that interests anyone, then I invite you to get in touch, and I'll send you information personally. And it's going to be I'm shooting for it to be less than $2,000 a person, plus flights.
Sure.
But that's going to come with transportation and catering and me. And the beautiful sea and the Isle of Skye
Wow.
and little sheeps eating the moss and a beautiful hot tub and place to hang out for a week to work on your craft.
Well, any wooks?
Wook's invited. Yeah, we are Wook friendly. We're Wook friendly. We're hippie friendly, techno friendly, dubstep friendly. We're there to make the music that helps us channel something bigger than ourselves.
That's amazing. And where can people go to find out about this? I guess they should watch your
Right now,
Instagram or
yeah,
Twitter or
go
whatever.
ahead and click on my socials. Stay in touch. If you really want information right now, I can send you all the info right now. We're gonna make the announcement really soon, though. I've been kind of busy on tour, so I've got it all together, and I have a feeling it will probably fill up fairly soon after we announce because it's only 10 slots.
Yeah, I think that'll go very fast. And I can't speak highly enough of your work and your skill set as a producer and as a teacher and educator. And I think anybody who got to do that would be damn lucky. I want to go.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sounds
well,
amazing.
yeah, I think that I'll probably have some opportunities too that are not like non-educational. The other thing I'd like to do, because I've started installing sound systems in Eagle Rock, I'd love to just have music producers come out and do like summits,
Mm-hmm.
just a getaway for creators, and we can talk about, we can trade tricks and we can maybe produce a little bit, but another day just go out on really nice walks or just relax together with other music producers. So I think Music Production Summit is going to be the next thing that I'm going to start opening slots for.
Yeah, that sounds amazing.
Yeah, I'll definitely let you know, buddy.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, we're gonna have to bring one of these Euro racks out there.
Yeah, it seems like the peak modular experience would be playing the modular out there with that view that we
Yes,
saw
I
on
have a
your.
very small modular system, but it sits, yeah, right below a window that looks out on the Isle of Skye, and it's just gorgeous. I was talking to Mr. Bill a couple weeks ago when I was out there, and he's got, by the way, one of the flattest studios I've ever been in. I mean, it sounds like the sound is being beamed into your head. There's no resonance at all. He
Wow.
brought an acoustician from Florida. I'm sure anyone could ask him about it, but it is just such a hot room. But it doesn't have sunlight. It's in kind of a cave,
Sure.
and he mentioned sometimes I'd much rather have less stuff, less of all this big studio, more of a scaled down thing and a really beautiful view.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the experience that I'm setting up. It's very stripped down. It's for the generation of producers that just open up a laptop and need speakers, you know. And we have a couple things there, but mostly you kind of find a nook and you look out at the sea and you just flow, you
That's
know.
awesome.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of it's going to be kind of a wellness experience, just in other than having time and space. So a space where you can really just open up.
You're
Yeah.
being influenced by the waves of the ocean, which is great, right? It's all waves in the end. So.
I've been very influenced by the waves of the ocean. Actually, I got a new song that it's got a over a minute long intro um, where the LFO kind of waves in, and it is directly inspired by sitting in front of the Atlantic Ocean, and there are dolphins that come by, and it's this magical place, and you know, I'd play the song for Catherine while I was making it, and I could tell when I got it right because she'd close her eyes and just we'd be absolutely feeling the landscape there reflected in the music. Also, speaking of reflecting landscape in the music, I'll repeat what I told you at the beginning. For sound installation, we're using sheep's wool. So
As like your sound dampening.
yeah, at
Oh,
least one of the rooms we're putting up sheep's wool, and instead of foam, I mean, sheep's wool actually really
yeah.
it dampens. It really does. But I feel like any acoustic treatment will still have a little echo of that acoustic treatment will be in the music. So I really like that there's an echo of sheep's wool showing up in the music.
That's Wookiee.
That's some work. That is some work shit. I've also become a professional sheep shit shoveler.
Uh, uh, that
I'm,
wasn't what I
I'm
expected you
pure
were going to say.
Scottish.
I thought you were going to say sheep shearer.
Sheep shearer,
That
yeah.
went a different direction.
I haven't sheared a sheep yet, but I am wearing. This is a sheep's wool sweater, and I feel like I carry fragments of that place wherever I go because it's impacted me so much.
That's very very meaningful when you're taking that place with you everywhere you go. I feel.
No, absolutely. I mean, when I find that deep silence in myself, it's almost like being there in Eagle Rock. And I'm from Alaska, you know. I mean, it's silent and peaceful in Alaska, but you know, being up there at Eagle Rock in the Highlands, just it's like the silence comes from within. You know, it's eerie in a good way, in a really good way. Anyway, I
Amazing.
invite you to find out more information. Come out and make some beats
Awesome.
with me
Good.
out on the edge of nowhere in Scotland.
Sweet.
Awesome. So, and they can look you up on Instagram at Encanti Music, Encanti Music.
Yep.
Right. Is it? Am I pronouncing it right? Is it Encanti?
You know, it's a made-up word, so you can pronounce it however you want. But people ask me that. In Conte, you can say whatever you want.
Gotcha.
Wookiee.
Wookie. Sweet. Well, thank you very much again, and again, Zebbler Encanti Experience.com, Encanti Music at Encanti Music on Instagram. Is that what you're? Are you on Twitter? You do any of that other stuff?
Yeah, something like that.
All that stuff. Zebbler Encanti Experience. Look both of these guys up. They're some of my favorite people in the world, and I just feel so lucky that we got you in here.
You're some of my favorite people too, Joe.
Oh. Wooks collect together, I guess. All right. Well, thank you everyone for checking us out.
Thanks,
and,
everybody.